Good evening. Please be aware that we have a new public video and photography section located in the back corner of this room. We have it marked with a sign. Anyone who would like to record can do so from there or from your seat. We ask that you please do not come up to the podium to record a speaker. Reminder of the norms of respectful behavior. 1, use respectful language. 2, be respectful of all speakers. 3, do not cause disruptions. 4, adhere to time limits. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call. Nancy Icona. Here. Eleanor Evans. Present. Mike Blessing. Here. Stacy Egan. Here. Thank you. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public report of action taken in closed session. No action was taken. We'll start with the best part of this meeting, our student representatives. We will start with Bella Moreno from Surfside.
Okay. Good evening, Board President Alvarez, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Vitale. I'm Bella Moreno from Surfside Educational Academy. I'm excited to share some updates on what's happening at Surfside. Congratulations to our December Rising Star, Yeshua Mendoza Vasquez. Yeshua exemplifies Surfside's core values of self-dedication and accountable citizenship. He enjoys studying history with Mrs. Steiner, and when he graduates, Yeshua plans to attend Miracosta College to study automotive engineering. On December 19th, Surfside will once again celebrate our early graduates during our traditional grad launch. We are so proud of our graduates and the plans that they have made for their post-secondary experiences. Way to go, Sharks, and we look forward to welcoming you back at the end of spring for Surfside's commencement. We are happy to report that our Surfside basketball team is off to a great season, winning their first 2 games against Valley and Montecito. But as Coach Jones aptly commented, the most important part of this basketball team is the life lessons that come from playing the game. Great job, Sharks, and thanks, coaches, for all of your hard work. Returning guest Rocky Herring spent 31 years as a DEA special agent and now is an alcohol and other drug ambassador for the San Diego County Office of Education. He delivered an informative and powerful presentation about fentanyl to students and staff that made a lasting impression. We also welcomed a Miracosta panel at their Lunch and Learn series where they discussed business careers and provided free firehouse subs to all who attended. Our middle school students continue to work as part of their independent study program. As you can see from the slide quotation, Ms. Julie provided a festive, no pun intended, statement that sums up her students' progress and the goals they accomplished in the last few days of the quarter. In November, we shared that Surfside was preparing for our annual holiday pop-up shop. Students will be able to provide special gifts for their family members at no cost to them. They will also be able to participate in a holiday raffle where they can earn tickets to enter as they exhibit Surfside's acronymic core values. Students and staff put their creative talents to work, making these winter door decorations that really contribute to the holiday season. And the festive mood is continuing this week as we participate in the end of semester Spirit Week, dressing up in ways that reflect our Surfside's learning outcome of self-dedication, effective communication, and accountable citizenship. Way to go, Surfside! Thank you for listening this evening and happy holidays!
We will now go with Natalie Lopez from El Camino High School.
everyone, and thank you to Board President Mrs. Alvarez and the rest of the board members and to Superintendent Dr. Vitale and her executive staff for all those giving me the time today to speak. My name is Natalie Lopez, and I am the ASD President and the Student Representative for El Camino High School. Around campus this month, students in Mr. Gravel's web design class are shown to be coding and design for a website. Another example is student presentations on their future careers in Mrs. Sanchez's financial algebra class. And then a group feedback is shown to be, a group in Miss Beebe's English class is shown to be giving feedback and responses to questions from this week's reading assignment. ASB's The Village. Thank you to ASB and advisor Mr. Gerard for their work in helping more students on our campus feel welcome and learn more about what our ASB does. ECHS's Fall Play. Congratulations to the entire cast and crew for their awesome presentation of their Fall Play, Alice at Wonderland, an updated twist on the familiar tale of Alice in Wonderland. Thank you to drama teacher Renee Finnegan and theater technician Ramon Nino for all of his work behind the scenes. National Honor Society's Food Drive. Our NHS students had a very successful food drive, filling the ECHS food pantry with hundreds of pounds of food for our scholars and families as we head into the holiday break. Sports. Congratulations to our girls water polo team on their win against OHS in the Rancho Bernardo tournament. And congratulations to the ECHS competitive cheer team who participated in their fourth CIF selection cheerleading and won their fourth championship in a row. And then happy holidays from us here in Wildcat Country, and we would like to wish you guys a very happy holiday. And this completes my presentation. Thank you all for giving me the time tonight to speak.
We will now ask Presley Riddle from Oceanside High School to come forward.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Vitale, President Alvarez, and board members. My name is Presley Riddle, ASB President at Oceanside High School, here to represent Oceanside High School. What we've been up to. Here's what we've been up to in the last month. Senior Blitz Week. Huge shout out to Europe, Avid, Trio, and our Pirate Cannon team, as well as TC for supporting so many of our amazing seniors that are applying to college. Forestry Challenge. After competing against 34 other teams this year, one team earned 4th place and the second team took 1st place. Our 1st place team even earned more points than 2 teams who had competed in different regional forestry challenge events earlier this year. Both teams earned an invitation to the championship round in April, just north of Yosemite National Park. We are so proud of the students. MCJROTC 25 cadets to Camp Pendleton's Mechanics Museum.
It's not your typical high school class.
But the aspects of being in this program really help with leadership and respect and community service.
The students of OHS's MCJROCT get out of the classroom and into the field.
I really do like the character development this class provides. It encourages you to take initiative, courage, and really builds on your discipline.
The course is taught by a retired military colonel, but a military career after graduation is not required.
The program is not designed to get people ready for the military. It's a leadership program, and leadership is needed everywhere in our country.
And that's your OUSD in 1 minute.
English 9 classes read The Most Dangerous Game, created team board games incorporating aspects of the short sentencing story. Our Compass and Our Foundations classes are working on their 4-year plans with counselor support. Our Avid classes travel to SCSU and Balboa Park for a day out on the town. OHS congratulations! Our OUSD Rising Star and girls golf are Valley League championships. Boys water polo is the Palomar League champions. Girls volleyball, CIF Division 4 champions and SoCal regional champions in cross country. Orange's color guard won first place in the varsity and fifth place. Congratulations. Oceanside played for the first time in his school history a volleyball championship at state. Our upcoming events are winter sports games starting up with women's and men's basketball. Pirates take their semester finals and Holiday Hope event next week. Snowball 2024 ticket sales are on sale now as well. Thank you and have a great night.
Vote for approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. I'd like to recuse myself from voting on consent item 6Y. Therefore, I recuse myself from the consent agenda on vote separately. So I'd like to hear a motion to approve items 2E, approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion to pull. Sorry.
I have a first. I second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving to item 3A, board organization, election of the president of the board.
Yeah, Madam President, I would move the election and nomination of Raquel Alvarez for a second term as president of the board. I think she's done a great job this past year, and I want her to do it another year. I think it's great, so we'll.
So I hear a motion to approve Raquel Alvarez to continue as the president. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I got a first, I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to say thank you, Mike, for that nomination.
It's been an honor, and I would love to continue.
Thank you.
You're in luck. You were just approved 5-0 to continue as the president. Congratulations, Raquel. Do I hear a motion to elect the 2024 vice president of the OUSD Board of Trustees?
I'd move Stacy begin to be vice president again for this coming year too.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first to have Stacy continue as vice president and a second by Raquel Alvarez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Dr. Begin. You get to continue as vice president of the Board of Education. No applause for Stacy. I feel like Mike's going to have the answer to this. Do I hear a motion to elect the 2024 clerk of the board of the OUSD Board of Education?
I'll make a motion to elect Mike Blessing to continue as clerk of the board. I'll second.
So we have a first to nominate Mike to continue as clerk of the board and a second by Raquel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Mike. You continue as the board clerk.
Thank you. I'd like to appoint superintendent and secretary of the Board of Education. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Approval of 2024 Board of Education meeting schedule. Do I hear a motion for approved Board of Trustees meeting schedule?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we have approval of authorized signatures for the district. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move to 4A, superintendent report.
Yep, I just have one very important item. The students and staff go on vacation December 21st through January 28th. So I hope everyone who's taking that time off has a wonderful vacation and that you enjoy yourself and be safe. You can clap for that one too.
You said the wrong day.
What that said?
You said January 28th. Thanks for the extra month.
February 28th. You're welcome.
January 28th. Woo!
I'm optimistic. January 8th, my apologies. See you all back, January 8th.
Thank you. We'll start with board report. Yes, thank you. We attended the California School Board Association Annual Education Conference where we learned about the state of the California budget, and we were able to engage in conversations with other school board members across California about what the impact may be fiscally, and then also learn about best practices across the state, what other school boards and districts are doing. I also want to wish our students good luck on their finals. Can be very stressful time, so making sure that students, staff, and families are also making sure they're taking care of themselves and managing your stress levels during this time. Good luck.
Thank you. We'll go with Eleanor Evans, please.
Thank you. As a member of the planning committee for the CSBA AEC, I'd like to thank the staff, thank the team for attending, and it's good to hear that it was fruitful for you. Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank Mrs. Galvin, Vicki Galvin, for being gracious enough to spend part of the day escorting me around Lincoln Middle School, Conquest, South Oceanside, College Elementary, as well as Dr. Lewis, who basically escorted me around Lincoln. And I recently been appointed as the vice chair for the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, EIP committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
No report. I gave mine to Ann. I did attend the CSBA conference in San Francisco and was very, very enlightening, as Nancy mentioned as well.
Thank you.
I give my report to Ann as well, and I went to CSB.
Thank you. We all were able to go to CSBA this year and work together as a team to find out and go to different parts of the conference and just speak with different board members. So it was a great time. I was also able to go on base last night to Stewart Mesa and listen to them play last night, and they were so amazing. Oh my gosh. Just seeing their passion and their love and their drive for music, it makes my heart clear power. Thank you all again, because it's been an amazing year to this point that we've gone through, and thank you all to the staff for all your support, to our families for all your support, and being here for your students, because it's been a time for the kids to come back, and they're struggling right now even with finals as we get ready to prepare for that. And again, for just like Nancy said, for your own self-care and for your students, just watching out and continuing to do all that you need to do for each other and watching out for each other. So thank you for just the amazing part of this half of the year that we've already been through. So thank you, and wishing you all a very happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas. And thank you all again for being here tonight and just being supportive of everything that we do for our students. We will now move to public comment on. Sorry. We'll move to ODA. Ms. Tiffany.
Hello, good evening. I don't know if I trust it or not. Good evening, board, Superintendent Vitale, cabinet, community members, colleagues. Before I start my presentation, I want to take a quick moment of personal privilege and recognize someone in the audience. So we have someone that's been very active in our association for as long as I've been here, since 1996. He actually started with the district. He was hired in 1986, started in 1987, and has been in the district during that time, working hard to educate students. He is our parliamentarian for our association, so I don't know what's going to happen when he's gone. It's cats and dogs sleeping together, that kind of thing. It's going to be crazy. So I would like to recognize Charles Finn, who is retiring in December. Thank you so much for all you've done for Oceanside. So I said the most important part of what I needed to say tonight during closed session. So now I'm going to read you a little story, a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think you'll recognize that this is definitely an OUSD. And by the way, it's a Tiffany Ortega original. So. 'Twas 2 weeks before break, and all through the district, many teachers were hoping not to be bitten or kicked. The assessments were finished, most assignments complete. Now if only there was time to finish report cards. That'd be neat. The students were antsy and ready for break, but the teachers maintained order for their lesson's sake. When at each school site there arose quite a clatter, every person around peeked to see what was the matter. There were multiple issues for many involved, but OUSD people were there to help the problem get solved. The copy machine was broken and seemed to be on repair. No problem, said a colleague, I have extras. I'll share. The teacher said thank you for all that you've lent me, but honestly, colleague, does this meet 80-20? They replied, no time to talk, on my way to a meeting. Feel free to wait here in my flexible seating. Out of his classroom he bolted with a burst of quickness when he heard murmurings of a colleague with a horrible sickness. A teacher was out with no substitute teacher assigned, so the staff crossed their fingers for the help admin would find. They begged, don't pull my counselor or my teacher doing intervention. The students need those, I might need to mention. The site sub was available and coverage was set. When 2 doors down the hall, another issue was met. A student was struggling with the concept of fractions. The teacher realized there were just too many distractions. She rolled up in a chair to where the student was seated, and in the blink of an eye knew exactly what's needed. As the expert professional of instruction and teaching, the teacher taught strategies for which the student was reaching. She thought, I'll make scaffolds, that would be sublime. However, I honestly will need more prep time. An ed specialist overheard this teacher's confessional and suggested the student work in small group with a paraprofessional. The teacher exclaimed from relief and elation, I wish we had more time for this kind of collaboration. So with ODA in red shirts and CSEA in blue, the teachers and support staff did what we always do. We prioritize students and facilitate learning, so we won't apologize for wanting an increase in earning. In case you're wondering, I'll give you a hint. Paying educators is how you invest in each student. So as we get ready for a shortened winter break, as we hold down the fort, this is the plea that we make. Please focus on students with all good authority and make the people that work with them the district priority. OUSD people will work tirelessly at all sites. Let's keep them happy. And with that, a good night.
Working against. We will move to public comment. During this portion of the meeting, individual speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes total to address the board on agenda items, including items on the consent agenda. However, the total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes, while the total time per speaker for a given topic may be slightly reduced in certain circumstances. All persons wishing to address the board will have a meaningful opportunity to do so during this meeting. An individual may only turn in one public comment card for the public comments on agenda items.
We have 5. The first 3 speakers will be Todd Madison, Emily Richmond, and Justin Moody.
All right, well, thank you. So thanks again to the board for graciously allowing the Philippians to speak to you. We know how difficult it is here. That's significant, repetitive, effective voice ad infinitum. We'll continue to do our best to make parents aware of the district's parent-unfriendly attitude when considering providing with their children, along with the money that comes with them. So 6P, Library Book Awards. I haven't been particularly involved in the library book controversy here. You may have seen my commentary published on Account Matters a few days ago discussing the misuse of the phrase banning books and the characterization of opposition to obscenity in our school libraries as hate. Both are just rhetoric to appeal to those who want to avoid thinking, including certain retiring teachers who have compared concerned parents to Nazis. But I hope the district has learned something and is not including books with adult content warnings or pornographic graphics in this batch. Item 5CC, Supervisors of Math. So I saw this on the agenda. Just wanted to congratulate Mr. Nang. My oldest daughter, who's a bit of a math wizard, she's now an environmental scientist at California EPA, says, and I quote, Mr. Nang is one of the best. So thank you for that. Glad to see OUSD taking improvement of math instruction seriously. Less than a third of our kids testing proficient in math. That seems like a priority. 7A, bond financing. So I'm just mentioning this because it's a perfect example of what's wrong with this process that I'm going through right now. with the actions taken by the board to stifle public input in meetings. It's virtually impossible to comment on this without seeing the presentation. How would I say anything useful? The presentation was not posted in the agenda, which is a pretty clear way for our board and district to say, we don't really care what you have to say. We're going to do whatever we want anyway. Ditto for number 9D, the interim budget. I assume it will include the always riveting presentation of what's happening in our financials by Dr. Norman, but of course I can't comment on that because I haven't seen it. I'm not sure whether this report includes anything built in to accommodate the labor demands happening now or revenue cuts that we'll see as a result of the state's deficit announcement. I don't know if there's any prediction in there where the union apologizes to employees in the district who will need to be laid off in the future for considering their bonus raise more important than staff jobs. I'll look forward to the budget presentation. 10A, board policy district residency. So just a note on this one to highlight the fact that we can see the anti-parent focus of the district on display here. Everyone should take a look at the marked up copy in the board agenda. Note that most of the changes relate to striking the word shall from clauses involving parent notification, replacing that with the word may. Those are significantly different. It means the superintendent won't be, God forbid, forced to notify parents of all the attendance options in the district, but only to do that if she feels like it. So we know how that will go. Thank you very much.
I'll just say a couple of words on 6Z, the school plan for student achievement. I'm, again, very disappointed with the Board of Education that it did not ask for the presentation to be transparent to the community and to the parents. Item 6Y, I was told, and it's a great program. It's been a beautiful program. I spent many nights enjoying Colette and her mother Sherry do a fantastic job, and they always have since 1992. My question is, if it's going to be spoken to, is why did you wait? It was not done in 2021. There was no ballet folklorico. There was no ballet folklorico 2022-23. Why did you wait so long? Why did you have our kids not being able to participate? As a grandmother, I loved my grandson would sing and dance the ballet folklorico. How many grandmothers missed that? And will miss it from now on. My question is also, too, is $89 per dancer. And since then, 2020, right after COVID, we've done many, many things as far as budget. $750,000 to Panorama, these surveys that teachers are supposed to look at. They don't have the time to look at. They know what their kids are all about. We have our Department of DEI that you established. We have the coordinator that you established. We had secretaries. So all this money was going to people. What about our kids? So my question is, why did it take so long? And again, with budget cuts, I do not want to see this program cut. There's other things you can cut. There's a lot of...
Emily, I don't want to interrupt you, and you can stop the timer. We're pulling that item just to vote on it separately.
Right.
Raquel's going to recuse herself from voting on it, but the board will still take action and vote on that item.
Right.
And the recommendation is that it moves forward.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I thought she was going to say some more good stuff about it, so that's what I was going to ask. Since you're pulling it and you're going to discuss it, that you could answer some of my questions, because I know what I was.
And she's pulling it just to recuse herself.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation. Again, this is a great program, and I don't want to see it go. Also, there's another piece of this, is the mariachis. We have the mariachis. Some of you that don't know that we did. We started at Mission Elementary School. The kids were great. We made uniforms. We had an instructor that would come. The problem was when those kids went to Jefferson Middle School back in 2018, whoever was in charge did not want to change the time of Jefferson so that the instructor could go from Mission to Jefferson. And so that mariachi program died. It died. So there's, again, you talk about social emotional learning, some of our kids could be engaged. We've got wonderful activities. Why not for our 60% of our Mexican kids? Why are we so specified with and worrying about inclusion and all these things when we don't have these programs? And again, we need the mariachis back. We need our kids in this instrumental realm. We have people out there, and we need to get to make sure that that's not going to be cut. It's going to get ugly. And I know there's a lot of, again, district people, mid-management people that you brought on that when I look at the board agenda, I see all the money that's been reimbursed with travel. All these people that are in classrooms, they're not dealing with the students. So there's a lot of that going on. Thank you.
Just real quick, Emily, on that, just to share with you, this has been an ongoing conversation about the Cocorico. It is, I don't know if you know, it is a huge passion of mine. We actually have Colette Leyva here, who is actually the instructor for that and the director of that.
Again, I was there when they started in 1992, so I know exactly. If you have anything in their room where they have all their costumes and all their
Right.
things, I can borrow them.
So having that all back again is amazing for our kids. It's been the first day back.
Yes.
There was a huge number of kids, and it was
Yeah.
great to see. As far as the mariachi goes, she has actually got that going also. That I think it starts February or March. January.
Yeah.
That we're looking at it for coming back. So it is a process.
Good.
Obviously for everything, and you know the process that everything takes, and it's never tomorrow like I want it to be. But it is because arts are a huge thing that a student needs, and it's also, and you know and I know, that it's a huge thing for our students, especially in this community, to be able to have to stay focused, not only on their educational part of it, but on their social-emotional. So having these programs back are very important, and we're working very diligently on getting different funds back that need to have that focus. So thank you for your passion for that as well, because you may call me saying we need some kind of thing, but it is a thing that is what we're moving forward with at this point in time.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all here tonight. My name is Justin Moody. I believe many of you are aware I teach photography at Oceanside High School. Tonight, I'm here to share a few comments about Proposition 28 and my hopes for the way that OUSD will approach the tremendous opportunity that Prop 28 provides our students now and into the future. Approximately $1 billion has been added to the annual statewide budget exclusively for arts and music in public schools. This is amazing. This year alone, OUSD will receive approximately $2.5 million for the arts. And even more exciting, the arts funding is ongoing, and we will continue to receive a similar budgetary influx from Prop 28 every year from now on. Amazingly, the first funds are scheduled to arrive in February of 2024. As an arts educator, I'm excited to begin planning a future of new learning opportunities for our students. At Oceanside High School, we've already begun to do just that. Our team has been holding regular meetings to devise a plan for the best way that OHS can spend our respective portion of the Prop 28 funds. And herein lies the reason for my presence tonight. California's Code of Education is very clear about how these new funds will be distributed to individual school sites. Additionally, it states for each school site, the principal shall develop an expenditure plan for the funds allocated. And the California Department of Education has also made clear that each school can determine which program, or programs it will offer. School administrators, in collaboration with teachers, family, and students, should together make the choice that best serves students in their local school community. These lines were built into Prop 28 to ensure that decisions about newly available funds are made at the site level. In other words, decisions about how to spend Prop 28 funds should not be made by central district leadership, nor should they be made by the board of directors. Please remember, our use of this budget will be audited every year. There are multiple notes in tonight's agenda that refer to the allocation of Prop 28 funds. Some of them have been amended. Let's just remember that the correct way to make decisions about this new funding is at the site level and not here. I ask that you all please take this into consideration tonight and moving forward. Together, let's seek new ways to encourage our site teams to develop their own robust plans. Thank you for your consideration.
Our next is Justin. Thank you for sharing that accurate information. We appreciate it. And on item Y, when we vote on that separately, we'll make it clear that Prop 28 money is not being used for that because we have not received funds. You are correct. We don't receive that until February. So thank you for sharing that correct information.
Our next two speakers is Beth Farnham and Colette Levi.
Good evening. I am speaking on 10C in regards to immunization practices on school premises. The superintendent or designee may arrange for an unauthorized healthcare provider to administer immunizations at schools to students whose parents or guardians consent in writing at the beginning of the school year. It says, if they can, in here it does say, unless medically they cannot receive them. With SB 276, I'm sure most parents are not aware, and SB 714, good luck in getting a doctor to write a medical exemption, because I have a vaccine-injured child that the doctor did not recognize, and that's one of the reasons he can't go to public school. The corrupt California Medical Board made sure that doctors cannot write more than 5 exemptions. I would also caution you to having anyone on campus do any vaccination clinics unless you're going to provide true informed consent. So if you're a parent, like I was, and you went to the doctor's office, you received one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that talked to you about some adverse reactions. Well, here is the MMR vaccine insert, which is measles, mumps, and rubella. It is 15 pages long. No one gets that. On it, it says, the healthcare provider should determine the current health status and previous vaccination history of the vaccine. That's probably not going to happen if you do it on campus. The MMR has not been evaluated for carcinogenic or mutagenic potential or potential to impair fertility. Some of the adverse reactions are measles, encephalitis, which is what my son had, which is brain swelling, seizures, Guillain-Barré, and it goes on. I belong to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. group, which is called Children's Health Defense, and when the COVID vaccine came out, there were high schools here in San Diego County that provided vaccine clinics on campus. So we went to protest them, and we had some parents walk in, and in Carlsbad High School, the nurse said, if they have it forged, I don't care, it's fine. So you've got kids going in asking for vaccinations, which they have no, my 15-year-old knows now because he was diagnosed when he was 12. And we had him understand what happens if he gets another vaccine. It can cause him massive brain injury. The other problem is, unless you have staff on site that is going to help in case an emergency arises, which is what happened at San Diego Academy. A girl passed out, she fell on the floor. They didn't have any paramedics on site. They had to call them in. That girl was unresponsive. So what I'm trying to tell you is don't do it. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Education. I would like to thank you for your consideration and ratification of item 6Y, the agreement with Garrison Gems for Baleco Politico and Mariachi Services. Baleco Politico Estrella has been a staple for 30 years in the Oceanside Unified School District and within the Oceanside community. What began at Ditmar School with only 30 dancers has grown to almost 200 dancers since 1992. Unfortunately, in April 2020, due to COVID-19, the group's practices were paused. During that pause, dancers continuously reached out and asked when the after-school program would resume because of the program had left such a void in their lives. Fortunately, today, on behalf of Baleco Politico Estrella, I am happy to report that after 1,350 days, our dancers are back at it once more. After just 2.5 weeks since reinstatement of Baleco Politico classes, we have over 75 middle school and high school dancers participating in our program. This is a testament to the important role that Baleco Politico Estrella plays in offering a culturally significant program to our underserved Hispanic students. We will begin our elementary classes in January for students from 2nd want to expand their musical experience. Once again, I thank you, board members, for your continued support and advocacy for the arts and for Hispanic culture. I look forward to seeing you at our annual shows in the springtime, where you will have the great pleasure of witnessing the performances of the excellent political dancers and financial musicians. Thank you.
At this time, I'll call for the vote for 6A through 6X, 6Z through DD. Do I hear a motion to approve items on consent?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote for item 6Y, ratification of agreement with Garrison Gems.
Trustee Alvarez, I'd like to ask for an amendment to the item to have it be only, to have it reflect that this will be paid for this contract out of the Arts and Music Grant and not proclaimed. So if I can, that would be an amended item.
Quick question, how long is that grant available for, and will it be?
That's an instructional block grant, and the money was 2 more years for that.
I'll move approval of the item Y.
I'll second. I have a first and a second. Additional questions or comments?
Just, I guess, what's the plan for making sure that after the 2 years grant is expired, that it's...
So as we look at all of our funding as we go forward, we always make a priority. We have our LCAP committee, and so we can look at our supplemental concentration funds and our LCAP committee, and again, to find which places we might have additional funds as we move forward.
And Prop 28 might be a future funding source because the kids all do attend the schools. There could be portions cut off from that. But because we haven't received the funding, because we don't have our plans yet, we can't determine that.
Yeah, and one of the other, Dr. Whitehead, one of the other things is that schools can join together to offer joint programs if that's what the school decides, because some of the schools are smaller. Oceanside High School has a large portion of that grant because they have a larger student enrollment, but some of our smaller schools would be hard pressed to have a robust program, so they might choose to join together.
So that covers the mariachi part of it also?
Yes. The contract is for mariachi and the Lady Victoria as we has to
For the 2 years. Okay, so I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I just want the record to reflect that Trustee Alvarez recused herself from that vote.
Thank you. We'll go for presentations. 7A, presentation to the Board of Education regarding 2023 general obligation bond post and issuance financing.
Thank you, President Alvarez. The 2023 general obligation bonds, election of 2020 Series B, 2023, and general obligation refunding bonds were successfully sold on September 19, 2023. The district's municipal advisor, Blake Bean, Principal Managing Director of K&N Public Finance, will present information to the Board of Education on the 2023 general obligation bond post-issuance financing. Blake?
Dr. Norman, everybody hear me okay? So I have a short presentation just in regards to some of the highlights from the recent bond financing process. So on the first page, just as a brief overview, this marks the second phase of bond sales or funding from the 2020 Measure W voter authorization. These bonds were sold in an amount of $50 million to fund, again, the second phase of capital facility projects that coincide with what voters authorized back in November of 2020. In addition to the Measure W bonds, we also looked at this opportunity to also refinance some of the outstanding 2008 Proposition H bonds in order to save taxpayer dollars. work in public finance, which serves as municipal advisor. We act as the district's fiduciary as we interact with bond underwriters, investors, and credit rating agencies. The longtime bond underwriter that participated is Raymond James, and longtime bond counsel is Orrick. On the next slide, just talking a little bit about the credit rating process. Each time the district goes and sells bonds, you seek a credit rating from one of the major rating agencies. In this case, for the 2023 bonds, it was Moody's Investor Services that affirmed the district's general obligation bond rating of AA3 and issuer rating of single A1. These are well into the investment grade and help to position Oceanside Unified to minimize the interest cost of these borrowings. Some of the attributing factors that were noted in Moody's report is the general property wealth levels within the district's boundaries, the district's conservative budgeting practices, and maintaining a strong fiscal position. On the next slide, it just gives a brief overview of where Measure W sits relative to the two series of bonds that have been sold. The graph at the bottom really tells most of the story there, where each time we sell the bonds, we're layering in under the tax rate of $30 per 100,000 that district voters approved back in 2020. So after these Series B bonds were sold, the new debt service will be, we're anticipating right under the $30 mark for the next several years. And coming 2027, the debt service is structured to drop back down, leaving room for the third and final series of Measure W bonds. And then on the next slide, just a brief overview of the refunding. The table at the bottom really highlights a lot of details. The key of which is the new bonds, as I stated earlier, were sold at a true interest cost or aggregate interest rate of 4.013, refunding outstanding bonds that had an interest rate of 6.141, an average coupon or interest rate of 6.141%. So therein lies where savings are generated over the remaining life of the bonds. Taxpayers are expected to save over $5.8 million in interest cost. In the financial world, we typically look at savings also in present value terms, so what do those dollars mean today? And that calculation results in savings of over $2.57 million over the remaining life of the bonds. And I stated an important point earlier, but I want to reiterate, the repayment term is not extended through refinancing. It stays the exact same. The district is not obligated to refinance. This marks, I think, strong fiscal stewardship and just continuity and continuing to maintain and monitor not just the Measure W program, but some of the older propositions that have been approved by voters in the past. And the last piece of the presentation, just to touch on the cost as part of the Ed Code, this slide highlights all of the costs associated with the Measure W Series B issuance, as well as the refunding, as it's broken out by the different roles of bond underwriter, financial advisor, district's legal or bond disclosure counsel, rating agencies, and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but was pleased to be able to share this information.
Any questions at this time?
I don't have any questions. It's a great presentation. It's a great program to save taxpayers' money. We make these charts available to the public to the website, I think, after this meeting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. We'll move forward to 8A. Reopener by Oceanside Unified School District to negotiate with Oceanside Teachers Association, whatever 2023-24.
Thank you, President Alvarez and board members. This item is brought forth from a letter that was generated by ODA to amend their initial reopener for negotiations to include Article 3, which is the article for recognition, so that they can include the intervention teachers as part of the bargaining unit.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Do I hear a motion on item 8A?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. 8B, annual credentials report to the Board of Education 2023-24 school year.
Thank you, President Alvarez. This item is an annual item. It's an Ed Code requirement for the situations when teachers work outside of a credential area, or if there is an area that's not covered by a credential. This is the list for this current year, the list of teachers and the academic areas that they're teaching outside of their credential.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or discussion? Do I hear a motion for item 8B? All in motion. I have a first. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Move to item 8C, English learner authorization for career technical education and designated subjects teaching credential holders.
Thank you. We have a teacher at El Camino High School in the ROTC program. Teacher is fully credentialed, but is working on the EL clearance authorization. With board approval, this will be a variable term waiver for that teachers to continue working with students.
Thank you.
Move approval.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Approval of new class specification, Executive Director of Fiscal Services.
Thank you. Our classified department and personnel commission has approved a new job description for the Executive Director of Fiscal Services. Before the board is that new DAP.
I have a first and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 8E, approval of revision to classified leadership team salary schedule.
Thank you. This corresponds to the previous board item. This would be the corresponding salary schedule. We've added range 34 to reflect the addition of the Executive Director of Fiscal Services.
Any questions for staff?
And just a comment on this one, one of the presentations that I attended for training that I got sent to for governance talked about the difficulty it is for a lot of school boards to attract people and like the CEO for a district. So I'm glad that we are making this decision to make sure that this position will be attractive for somebody, because I know that it's been very difficult. There's districts who are going a long time without somebody. So.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for item 8E?
So move.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We will go for 9A. Public hearing regarding annual developer fee reports for fiscal year 2023. We open at 7:01. Please open to the public hearing and announce what time. Do you have any speakers on that? No speakers? You can close it at 7:02. Item 9B, approval resolution number 182324, adopting the findings contained within annual developer fee report 2022-2023.
Thank you, President Alvarez. The district is required to prepare an annual report with developer fees collected for residential and commercial development projects within 180 days of the end of the fiscal year. This report must be reviewed by the Board of Education at a regularly scheduled public meeting. It's recommended that the Board of Education consider and adopt the findings contained in the 22-23 annual developer fee report.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Do I hear a motion for item 9B?
Yes, you do. I move approval.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. 9C, approval of resolutions number
President Alvarez, we do have a brief slideshow for this. Thank you. This is regarding the maintenance, operations, and transportation project. The current facilities that house the M&O transportation and warehouse are old, outdated, and in need of repair. The overall facility is undersized, causing nutrition services to be located at Claire Bergner and facilities to be located in the bond office. Next slide. These are images of the current M&O facility. As you can see, some of the buildings date back to the beginning of the century. Different buildings have been added over the years, but there has been no coordinated modernization of current spaces. In the transportation department, the transportation shop is too small to efficiently support the number of buses it needs to regularly service. As a result, work often has to be completed outside. Connex boxes have been used to house inventory, but have gotten so old and dilapidated they can no longer be used. The transportation office is located in an old portable, as are the department's restrooms and the bus driver's room. All of these buildings are also in need of replacement. The size of the warehouse is inadequate for the number of students and sites it supports. Parts of the warehouse are actually classrooms from the early 1900s. We have limited storage for cold and dry food, as well as for books and materials. As a result, we often have to store furniture and materials outside or at school sites. Because there is an obvious need for a new MOT facility to house these departments, the district has explored funding options for this project. We are fortunate because we have two properties, Pacifica and Garrison, in escrow that are expected to close in less than 2 years. However, if we wait 2 years until all of the proceeds are received to begin the project, the cost of the construction will have escalated by more than 7.6%. In an effort to save the district between $1.7 and $3.7 million, we would like to enter into a lease purchase agreement or obtain a loan for the construction of the project. This is a traditional way that government agencies borrow money for the construction of large-scale projects. The district is able to save such a significant amount of money because the cost of the loan is less than the cost of escalation of construction. The table here shows a few scenarios. In blue, we can see the potential savings if we have the money on hand now and were to build today versus in 18 or 24 months. The white shows the potential project interest earnings if the funds from the lease purchase agreement were placed in the county treasury at 3.46% interest rate versus the arbitrage yield rate of 5.17. The green box highlights the potential all-in savings by investing the funds from the lease purchase agreement as well as the interest earned from the revenue of Pacifica when invested at the county rate versus the ARB yield for either 18 or 24 months. Next slide. The sources of revenue that were used to pay off the loan include the proceeds from the sale of Pacifica in February of 2024, the sale of Garrison in fall of 2025, developer fees, redevelopment agency funds, and interest earned from the initial loan as well as the proceeds from Pacifica. The district intends to pay back the loan within 2 years. However, in the event of any properties do not sell as anticipated, the district can take up to 20 years to repay the loan at a fixed interest rate of 5.17%. The district would now like to present resolution number 14, which authorizes the execution and delivery of the lease purchase agreement in a principal amount not to exceed $38,090,000 at an interest rate not to exceed 5.17% for the purpose of financing the maintenance, operation, and transportation facility. The district resolution also approves the forms of the site lease purchase agreement, and escrow agreement, and authorizes district officers and designees to take all actions necessary to consummate and execute the delivery of the lease purchase agreement. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt resolution number 14.
Any questions for staff?
With the bus yard transportation shop, are we going to have additional charging stations regarding electrical buses?
EV, we will be installing EV, yes, for our buses. We're actually in the process of doing that now because we have electric vehicles, so we'll be making sure that those can be installed in our yard when we renovate it.
Is it one per bus or will buses have to share?
I believe it's one per bus. Karen is here.
It's a dual, so one will have two chargers on both sides, and then we'll have one faster.
It's one charger per bus, but one charger has 2 ports.
Yes.
Okay.
And another question regarding the warehouse construction materials, dry goods, and frozen food all in one building, or is it compartmentalized?
It's compartmentalized. I mean, currently, it's compartmentalized. You walk in and it's your instructional materials off to the left in the old classrooms, and then you go walk back and you've got more of your freezer refrigeration station. And so when we design it, we'll design it with multiple parts as well, but it will be more adequate.
Any additional questions or comments?
No, I'm really excited about this project. It's been something that I've been advocating ever since I got on board in 2008 to get a new transportation center, operations center up and running in that corner there, and to beautify it in terms of our front porch on Mission Avenue there and Canyon Road as well. And at the same time as creating working livable conditions for our employees in there to have a decent facility to have our kids and our buses work on and our support staff. So I'm really excited about it. I would do this. I'll move approval.
I know, yeah. Okay, so we have a first and a second, but I just want to comment. I know taking a tour of the site, and I don't know how it managed this far and this long, and why it was not, like I said, done sooner. I'm sorry to the staff. But I look forward to just the wonderful site that it's going to be, for the staff to be able to come in and not feel like it's a danger zone. Because sometimes I think that's what it feels like when you just walk through there. So, I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Just a quick question, what would be the estimated time of completion? What would we think?
Well, we typically will start design as soon as we get funding. We've already done where we talk about how much space we need. We need to do that so we can get the estimate. And then we take about 6 months to design it. We won't be going through DSA because we'll be working with the city on this project, and then it's about 18 months of construction. So Mike, would you say 18 to 24 months?
I would say 24 to 30.
24 to 30. He's keeping us realistic. 24 to 30.
Thank you.
And we work with the city because of permits.
Yeah, we don't go through DSA because it's not a facility that will house children or students.
Can we go to the city?
We do go through the city instead, yes.
Thank you. Again, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have 9D, first interim financial report for 2023-2024.
Thank you, President Alvarez. Tonight we have a presentation where we're going to be outlining the first interim report, but we're also going to be taking a look at enrollment across the state, across the county, and in the city, and in our district. Next slide, please. We are seeing changes in student enrollment throughout the country. This map illustrates the projected K-12 enrollment change by state. You can see the lightest colors have the most people leaving, or a decrease of 5%, and the darkest colors have an increased population of 5% or more. Next slide. California added 475,803 residents from other states in 2022. Only 2 states had a larger inflow. Florida with 738,000, Texas with 668,000. California's #1 draw is Texas, then Washington, New York, Florida, and Arizona. California lost 669,000 residents last year, largest of the states, for a net out-migration of 341,866, also #1. California's arrivals compared with this huge population is 1.2%, or the worst attraction rate amongst the states. Next slide. This graph shows how California's K-12 enrollment has continued to climb over the past 2 decades. We saw the highest enrollment in 2004 with just over 6.3 million K-12 age students. Next slide. This bar graph shows the change in school age population from 22-23 through 32-33 in California. There is an estimated 661,497 decrease in school age students, or a negative 11.3% change. In this slide, we're looking at counties. Here we take a closer look at 4 of Southern California's counties and the change in school age population from 22-23 to 32-33. San Diego and Orange County Here we see similar decrease of school-age children with a loss of 13.4% and 13.7%. Los Angeles is expected to experience the greatest decline in school-age population at 21.2%, and San Bernardino is anticipated to only lose 6.9% of school-age children. Here we're looking at San Diego County, 3-year change. So you can see the decrease is in the red and the increase is in the green. It's not surprising that we see, as we move east, we see some larger green bubbles. We have here some unified school districts listed on the left, with Oceanside being the 5th one down. Looking at San Diego's 3-year change from 2019 to 2023, all but 2 districts listed lost more than 100 students. San Diego Unified lost more than 10,000 students, followed by Vista, Poway, San Marcos, and then Oceanside with just over 1,300 students. The districts located furthest east saw less of a decline, with a few districts even seeing some minor growth. Next page. Oh, thank you, perfect, right there. The declining enrollment we are experiencing in Oceanside dates back over a decade. Here is a snapshot of the change in Oceanside's student population for the past 9 years. As you can see, the years of the pandemic significantly interrupted student enrollment and has made it challenging to identify any pattern of declining enrollment. In the past, the district had predicted an annual loss of approximately 410 students. However, due to this year's decline of 558 students, we are now estimating an average loss of 470 students in the out years. That would be our 5-year average for student loss. So here we just have a table showing the math on how that pencils out to a loss in revenue. OUSD student enrollment had a decrease, and so we're losing on average 470 students. The demographic information that was projected in spring of 2023 actually indicated that we would be losing fewer students, but we still budgeted conservatively. Here we budgeted for a loss of 404 students. We actually lost 558, which meant that that was an additional 154 students. When you multiply that by a average student allocation, because you get a different amount of money depending on the grade spend of the student, we did an average just to show the effect of loss of revenue. It's over $2 million. I share this information because it's important to consider what is happening with student enrollment across the state, the county, as Oceanside develops their local district budget. And now we'll get into our local district budget, our first interim report. During this presentation, we will review changes in expenditures, general fund comparison, components of the ending fund balance, assumptions, multi-year projection, also called the MYP, and next steps. Next slide. Here we have assumptions, and when I've talked about the budget in the past, you think about assumptions like you think about ingredients when you bake a cake. Different ingredients get a different cake, different ingredients get a different budget. And your ingredients are called your assumptions. And here are our main assumptions. And we get these through looking at our local factors, but we also look at the SSC dartboard. We listen to what the legislative analyst's office has to say. Here you can see the COLA assumptions. Previously, we have been using higher COLA assumptions on the dartboard, but recent messages and also noted in the common message when developing your budget, it's recommended that you use a lower COLA right now. We'll have more information after January when the governor reveals what COLA is likely to be moving into the spring. But for now, we did first interim based on a lower COLA. For this year, we remain at 8.22%, but in the out years, you can see we're projecting 1.3% and 2%, and this is a significant change over the last 2 years. We've updated our declining enrollment. We originally budgeted about 404 is what we ended up landing on, but that had been our average. And then in 24-25, we're projecting out 470 for the next 2 years. Our ADA at 90% is still lower than what it used to be pre-pandemic. Was at 94%. That's a significant amount of funding we're losing not having that additional 4% of students. It means that we have students enrolled in school who aren't coming to school. We don't get paid on who arrives to school, we get paid on who enrolls in school. And so that's where you get your deficit when you're paying for staffing for students who aren't coming to school.
So to account for the loss of revenue, we had been projecting a loss of 15 teachers annually and 5 classified staff. We're going to be increasing that to 17 in the next 2 out years and 6. Our health and welfare had come in at 12% this year. We're estimating at 10% in the next 2 years when we look at projections. Our increase in utilities was significant this year at 15%, but in looking at patterns, we identified it being closer to 11% in the next 2 out years. And when you have step and call, and we traditionally project this out, for certificated, you do it 2%, for classified, you do it at 1%, so we come up with an average of 1.5%. And I just want to emphasize the staffing is through attrition, not through layoffs at this time. Attrition would be people moving, that happens all the time, people retiring, people winning the lottery, that doesn't happen very often. Next slide. Here we also have other planning factors. We take into account California's CPI, or Consumer Price Index. We do get some lottery money, some of it's restricted, some of it's unrestricted. We have the mandated block grants. One thing that's important to always keep our eye on when budgeting, we have CalSTRS, that does stay more consistent at 19.10%. The CalPERS is continuing to go up in the out years. We have unemployment insurance rate that we pay, and then also minimum wage is continuing to increase. How that impacts us is making sure that our classified salary schedule is keeping pace with minimum wage so that our employees are making above minimum wage at all times. Next slide. Now we're going to be talking about some of the changes. And so when you plan your budget, you plan on revenue, but then you see changes come into effect as you get into the year. For the LCFF, the revenue increased because of an increase in the supplemental and concentration grant portions of the LCFF formula and the addition of an add-on funding for transitional kindergarten. Federal funds increased due to closing of the previous year's budget and rolling forward unspent federal grants. State funds also increased because of closing out previous year's budget. It also increased due to the addition of a new state grant, the Proposition 28, the Arts and Music and School Grant, not to be confused with the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. I don't know why in business with so many words we keep using the same ones, but we did. And local funds also increased due to finalizing the amount of interest accrued on funds deposited with the county treasury, donations, and receiving reimbursements from vendors and outside organizations. Now we have changes in expenses. Certificated and classified salaries reflect changing in staffing-related costs. The cost of benefits decreased due to fluctuations in staffing, and because the adjustment to insurance premiums actually occurs in January, we will see another change to the cost of benefits at second interim. Books and supplies increased due to recent textbook adoptions. Services and operating expenses increased due to carryover from 22-23. Capital outlay and other outgo are for items over $5,000, and this increased due to carryover from 22-23, so our total expenses increased by $40.6 million. Next slide. So here we have the budget comparison. Here you will see the difference between the unaudited actuals and the first interim, or the budget and unaudited actuals. We saw the totals of revenue and expenses in the previous slides. Here we have the net change in fund balance, or also you can see the deficit spending shows a change from the unaudited budgeting because we have spent down some of the district's reserve amounts to cover expenses, primarily for contracted services. Beginning fund balance remains the same from the unaudited actuals. Ending fund balance decreased because we are spending down restricted funds. And reserved for economic uncertainties, we always have that. And that changes based on expenditures. Next slide. Here we have the components of the ending fund balance. We always review this. This moves in proportion to our expenditures. We have our non-spendables. Those are our stores revolving cash. There was no change here. Our restricted funds have increased due to the addition of the Prop 28 grants. Here we have the assignments. That's where we have 4 to 10% of our budget, so it's over the reserve. We have $19 million. That's been set aside for employee compensation and declining enrollment mitigation, or funds to be used to offset the decrease in revenue as a result of declining enrollment. And here we have the committed. That's the amount above 10% at $14.6 million. We have that set aside for post-retirement and our facilities deferred maintenance. And then lastly, we have our reserve for economic uncertainty. The reserve amount increased because of the amount of expenditures increase, and we always maintain a minimum of 3% reserve.
Now we're going to go into the multi-year projections. This slide shows the multi-year projection for the district's budget for the next 3 years. This year and the next 2 out years, but 3 years total. Revenues fluctuate from year to year based on LCF assumptions, restricted funds, and grants. For example, in 24-25, you can see the revenue drops due to the fact that one-time grants, such as the Arts Music Grant, not Prop 28, the Learning Recovery Grant, are not recurring amounts. In 25-26, the revenue decreases due to lower student enrollment and grants and the restricted budget expiring. For example, COVID will be dropping off in September of 2024. Expenses fluctuate over the next 3 years. Our carryover drops off this year. We will see an increase in salaries and labor-related costs in 25-26. We have a net change in fund balance. That shows the difference between the amount of revenue the district will receive and the expenses. Here you can see we have in 24-25 a net change of $14.2 million, which grows in 25-26 to $23.4 million. And so that's an area we need to tackle with deficit spending because we have our expenses outpacing our revenue. And then we have our beginning fund balance that decreases over the next 3 years. And the ending fund balance we will review on the next slide. And lastly, we have the reserves for economic uncertainty that change based on expenditures. Thank you. So here we have the multi-fund balances. Again, this is for combined. That means we have our restricted and our unrestricted funds together. The stores of revolving cash remain consistent. We have our restricted funds, such as Title I, Title III, Medi-Cal grants, lottery. Funding decrease over the next year with a prediction of a slight increase in 25-26. Our assigned 19.1 will eventually drop off when spent. We have that set aside for employee compensation and declining enrollment mitigation. And then the committed is over 10% with $14.6 million. We anticipate that most of the assignments and commitments will need to be used to fund compensation for employees. In our ongoing negotiations, we will continue to set aside some funds for post-retirement and some facilities, furniture, and equipment. You will see this adjustment in March when we review second interim, and we'll bring this forward. And then, of course, lastly, there's always the 3% reserve. And lastly, we have our actions to ensure continued fiscal solvency. We'll continue to align staffing with declining enrollment, reduce staff as funding and timelines expire. Well, the staff's not going to expire, but we'll reduce staff as funding and timelines expire. Restricted funds, we have our TILOS grants and COVIDs. We keep a really close eye on those as they also expire. We will evaluate health and welfare costs and continue to incorporate updated revenue and expenditures as they become available for current and multi-year projections. And that's the end of the assignment. That's the end of the presentation.
Any questions for staff?
I don't have really a question, just have a comment. The federal border patrol says that San Diego County had about 50,000 undocumented people to come through, and in Oceanside we had 800 undocumented folks to come through. And I'm just wondering, they're coming with children. Where are the children in terms of these families? Are they being kept outside of it? I just want to say we have this number of people. We should have at least a little bit of pre enrollment. And it's not just Oceanside, it's San Diego Unified. It's kind of asking the same question as well.
I don't know. I don't know what the age of the children are that are coming here that are undocumented. All we can do is really track the enrollment for the students that do come to our schools. I'm not sure. I don't have that information, but I'm happy to look into it.
It's just a comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Comment?
Just a comment for me, I think, working at a school site and seeing how there's a lot of needs currently. It does worry me to see that we may have to align staffing. And I know currently we have
Right.
replacing staff.
We would still remain within the contract. I'm going to defer to Dr. McAteer. I don't want to get his lane too much, but we wouldn't go outside of the contract, but he can explain how we closely monitor staffing.
And before you do that, I just want to reiterate what Dr. Norman said, is that those reductions will be made for attrition, retirements, et cetera. We have no plans for layoffs or anything like that.
I think you both captured it very well. What we do is in the springtime, we look at those adjustments and we do an enrollment projection for the next year out. And then we go through school by school, classroom by classroom, and we fill those classrooms and staff accordingly. And then through attrition, through retirements, resignations, teachers going on leaves, we just don't backfill those. That's where the reductions come. And then we strategically move those out where we can at each school site.
Thank you.
Mine doesn't work.
My question is, on the ADA percentage, we're at 90%, and those are our projections. What are we doing to address the ADA? Increasing that number and those funds that come with it.
Sure, I can speak to that. So I can speak to just the work that we're going to address contact absenteeism. So Dr. Norman spoke about we were at 94% before the pandemic. We know that we lost, we saw contact students, that number hit around 23 or 24% in the back pandemic. We've taken on pretty aggressive campaigns starting in the summer to get that number down. We've reduced it to about 16% at this point in the year. Our goal is to get down to a single digit by the end of the year to really recruit back that ADA and get as close as we possibly can, 94%. We're making a lot of progress on it, but we are also continuing to apply all our resources that we have through the student services to find those students who are disconnected from school, make sure they have the right offerings for them to get connected back to school.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion for item 9D?
I'll make a motion.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. A, policy development.
Madam Chair, I would like to move approval of items 10A, B, C, and D in one motion. Without objection.
I have no objection. We have a first. I'll second. I have a first and a second to take item 10A, B, C, and D as one motion. All those in favor of taking all together as one, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes for items 10A, B, C, and D as one. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we will go to public comment on non-agendized items. During the portion of meeting agendas titled Public Comments on Non-Agenda Items, individual speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes total to address the board on non-agenda items. While the total time per speaker per given topic may be slightly reduced in certain circumstances, all persons wishing to address the board will have a meaningful opportunity to do so during this meeting. However, the total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes per item or topic. An individual may only turn in one public comment card for the public comments on non-agendized items per meeting.
So asking you how clear
I have 10. The first 3 speakers will be Emily Richmond, Madison Williams, and Todd Madison.
I'm addressing the school plans for student achievement that was on the consent calendar, but it wasn't a presentation, so that's a non-agendized item. I think for the board, if you've looked at it, it mentions the STAR Renaissance math, the scores there.
Emily, just a sec, that, can we stop the clock real quick? That is not a non-agendized item.
It is non-agendized because it wasn't a presentation, it was under.
But it's still an agendized item even if it wasn't a presentation. So it was an agenda item even if we didn't have to have a presentation with it. So we can't speak on that at this point.
Because it was on.
It was on consent
on the agenda, it's a, what the presentations are, what, a 7? And this is a 6. It's a different category. Anybody has a parliamentarian here that looks at the,
Every item prior to this item is an agendized item on which you can speak. Every item
But you can speak.
prior to.
You can speak on anything.
You can speak on any non-agendized
anything.
item.
She just wants to speak about what she wants to speak about.
On a non-agendized item.
yeah, because it wasn't there wasn't a presentation, wasn't it?
Having a presentation doesn't make an item agendized or non-agendized. Your decision, President Alvarez, but having a presentation doesn't qualify an item as agendized or non-agendized.
Even though it was not agendized. Let me talk about something else then. I just like to talk about student achievement. And with student achievement, it looks like when there's different things that need to be addressed, certain things that we, as far as the community and parents don't know about. They don't know about any of the comparisons of the Renaissance math. They don't know any comparison of Panorama. I know Panorama we've had 3 or 4 years. As I understand, there's a spring report. We have not had a spring report in 2023, 2021, 20. Where is that report that tells Panorama and how great that is for our kids and all the money that we spend on that? Also, too, as far as any comparisons, I don't think, but maybe had 1 or 2 academic presentations last year. And there was no presentations about what we did last year, what you did this year, on any of this stuff. And so as far as a community member, I'm going to have to reach out to Dr. Lawrence and sit down with him and look at these comparisons, because how do they know what they've done and what they haven't done? Also, too, there's they mentioned annual in the paperwork, the annual measurable outcomes, and then there's not any percentages. And as a board, I'm surprised that you don't look at some of this paperwork and pick that out and ask your people to go ahead and present that. And where is that information? So again, looking at comparisons, looking at reports that we spend $1 million with a company that just does surveys, or their reports. I myself would like to see those reports because I have not seen them from the DEI at all. So I don't know what you've done with this. I've looked at other, I read about another school district that looked at Panorama and all the great things that they've done with working with them. I don't see that in our district, so I would like to see that also. Thank you.
Sorry. Ron Madison.
Madison was.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm a parent of 2 children in the district, and I'm also a pediatric occupational therapist. I have a degree in child development, and I specialize in neurodevelopment and sensory processing. I'm here to talk about and urge you all to change your policies for iPad use in elementary schools. First, I'm going to do a little lesson and literature review on neuroanatomy. So, iPad use or extended screen time is a risk for brain development. 5-year-olds, 2 to 5-year-olds should only be having 1 hour of screen time a day, and beyond that, it should only be 2 hours. And with iReady and to be honest, just breaks for teachers, we're getting above the recommended amount of screen time per student. There are studies that show after 20 minutes of screen time, there are high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which impacts your health, your mood, and your BMI. That it decreases GABA, a neurotransmitter that is important for mood, sleep, and stress. And then there are studies showing that children are put in an apneic state, which is basically apnea. They're not breathing when they're watching screens, which means less oxygen to the brain, which is very important for school. There's also a correlation to decreased bone density, increased obesity, vision problems, sleep problems, mood disorders, reduced mental reserve, and insulin level changes. I've spoken to many parents in different districts, such as Huntington Beach, Poway, San Diego, San Marcos, Laguna, Irvine, and Orange County, and none of those schools give children access to YouTube or web browsers, and none of those schools let their children take iPads home. So I am asking our district to change their policies and not allow iPads at home, keep them at the school, and take away browsers and YouTube. We can purchase applications that can do all of the things that they need, while also keeping them safe from adult information. And I know we have some kind of protective device that helps, but unfortunately, my daughter's second grade classroom, there was a breach, and children were watching rap videos during their free iPad time and saw little clips of very inappropriate images. They're also searching at home naked people. So, not okay. And then if you think about, we have very vulnerable communities in this district, and if we're sending them home with iPads to, babysit them sometimes, to be honest, they're having even more, being put even more at risk for these things like, oh, dang it. All right, thank you.
All right, so now it's me, right? So, great budget presentation, by the way. It was actually a nice one. So, time to talk about ongoing labor negotiations again. So, just to recap the real numbers from actual OUSD pay records, last year the median total compensation of an OUSD teacher was $128,000 a year. Doesn't include bonus raise given out last December, and that unlikely gets us to $135,000 right now. It's from your own records. We see the state announcing billions in cuts to education. With that uncertainty, increasing our costs tremendously would be the dumbest financial move we could make, similar to December 2019. So we know our teachers are getting nice six-figure compensation, up to $23,000 more than they would make with the same education in private work. The district proposal, which I support, includes a bonus raise plus a health care plan that would still be free to employees and only cost a fraction of what private workers pay for family coverage. We've seen in the HR numbers, we simply do not have a problem with teachers leaving for higher pay elsewhere. That does not exist. It's a made-up issue. There is no data showing problems with voluntary turnover. As I've always said, I'm very happy we can pay teachers well. I would never advocate that we cut anything there. But maybe it's time that we focus our additional spending on kids. We don't have a problem losing teachers, but we do have a problem in education. Barely 40% of our kids are proficient in English, miserable 29% in math. Let's solve that. As I've said before, what if we focused on improving education instead of improving adult bank accounts? What if we proposed a plan that put significant money, not window dressing, into things that actually benefit kids? Parents and teachers have told us over and over again they would like to see smaller class sizes. What if we put serious money into that? We could easily cut class sizes by several kids per class. I think teachers would like that too. What if we focused pay increases on starting teacher rates? We could easily raise just the bottom tiers by several $1,000s a year. Who thinks teachers should make more? I noticed nobody raised their hands. What if we focused how about funding for classroom supplies? A single-digit percentage of what the union is asking for would give teachers hundreds of dollars a year for supplies. Let's do that. But what we will see is more of what we saw in the last meeting, where our union president stood right here and demanded union members be your first priority in spending. Not our kids, not education, adults and their bank accounts. A different union president once said, when kids start paying dues, I'll start paying attention to kids. Apparently that's part of the curriculum at Union President School. Mrs. Ortega certainly got an A on that test. Seems like there are ways to make this work for both adults and kids instead of just adults this time. We're an organization that supposedly works on behalf of our kids. You represent them. Let's do that. Thank you.
Three speakers, Gustavo Barosa, Natalie Sanchez, and Patricia Mendez.
nomination, please? And may I also get 6 minutes on the clock, please? We'll just do the 3 minutes twice and then we'll go from there. That's going to be the easier way to go.
Gracias, ahorita vamos a poner el tiempo.
Le vamos a dar 6 minutos. Señor, le vamos a dar 6 minutos porque para que pueda traducir. Gracias.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Gustavo Barroso. Soy el papá de una estudiante que va a la escuela, la Lili, y en los últimos 3 meses hemos tenido muchos problemas con mi hija porque alguna persona le ha estado bullying y ella ya no quiere ir a la escuela. Yo tengo que dejar de trabajar para poder llevar a una escuela. Y traté de hablar con la principal, mi esposa. Ella siempre se escondía, decía que no estaba, nunca tenía tiempo para nosotros. Hasta que fuimos al distrito, hablamos, nosotros le dimos la oportunidad a ella para que hablara con nosotros, pero nunca tenía tiempo. Y el día que fuimos al distrito, hablamos, y en lo que llegamos a la casa, nos habló por teléfono que quería una mini para mañana. Le digo, ¿por qué? Si tuvo la oportunidad de hablar con nosotros, no nos hizo caso, hasta que fuimos al distrito. Y mi hija no quiere ir a la escuela. Ahorita ya está yendo un poquito mejor, pero al principio no quería ir, porque dice que alguien la estaba molestando. Y he oído que no es nomás mi hija, hay muchos niños o padres que se están quejando de lo mismo. Ahorita ya la mandaron a ir con un psicólogo, pero al principio no había ayuda. Nosotros queríamos saber qué tenemos que hacer para que pongan atención, porque no es nomás mi hija, son muchos niños. Y por eso no nomás soy yo, hay varias personas que están aquí de la misma escuela. Es todo, gracias.
Gracias.
My name is Gustavo Barrosa. I'm the father of a student at Libby. For the last 3 months, we've had a lot of problems with my daughter because there's someone bullying her. She doesn't want to go to school anymore. I've had to stop working to be able to take her to school. I tried speaking to the principal and also my wife, and the principal wouldn't give us time. She would hide. She never had time for us. I had to talk to the district and let them know that we gave her several opportunities, but she never had time for us. That same day as we were coming home after talking to the district, we got a phone call from the principal saying that she would like a meeting for the next day. So it seemed like she didn't pay attention to us until we went there. So my daughter doesn't want to go to school. And it's because someone is bothering her there. And what I've heard is that she's not the only one, that it's not just my daughter. There's a lot of parents that are here for the same reason. She has been sent to see a psychologist, and we want to know what do we need to get the help and to get the attention. Because there's lots of other parents here that are saying that they've heard the same thing from the same school.
Hello, board members. I am here as a concerned community member. As many of you know, Libby Elementary holds a special place in my heart as to why I am here. Libby is up in flames due to poor leadership you have, and you have the power to extinguish the flames before the school burns down. In the past 5 months, the principal has proven poor leadership. The school has become a hostile environment, not only to staff, but parents and volunteers.
children are not safe. We have more parents that will speak more of what I have written. For one example, we had a lockdown, we had a shooting threat. She did not notify staff. One of the parents here she was locked in her office, the whole office was closed, all students were still in the playground. Luckily, it was a false threat. Imagine if it was a real one. Many parents have tried to speak to her due to bullying at Libby. The bullying has been at an all-time high. I could send you emails that I personally have received from parents and staff, how they don't feel comfortable working there anymore. Many times she has mentioned in a closed meeting, she doesn't care what parents, teachers, or students say. She is the principal, and whatever she says goes. We have 2 sped aides that have not had a teacher for the past 2 to 3 months. She is not supported in there. They are in their planning. No support at all. Ms. Alvarez, you know the difficulty of being part of a PTO, how much support you need from your principal. At the beginning of the year, there was over 25 parents that had a meeting with her and complained about other going on issues. PTO parents were there. They are parents first. Because of this, she has retaliated against PTO. Does not let them fundraise properly. She has sabotaged many things for them to not fundraise. Sorry. I ask you to please do an anonymous survey for parents, staff, and students, so you could see the leadership that she's having, the poor leadership she's having there. Because this school, as I said, is going to burn down if you don't do anything. Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Patricia, tengo un estudiante en Libby, vengo a hablar sobre el bullying porque pienso que la escuela debería de ser un lugar seguro para nuestros hijos, si no lo es. Se han presentado más de 15 casos últimamente de bullying en la escuela, donde se ha tenido conocimiento por parte de la principal y ella no ha tomado seriedad en el asunto o interés. En unos casos se habló con la principal y no hubo solución alguna, e incluso donde ni siquiera se siguió el caso, como el de mi hija, que le estuvieron haciendo bullying. Hablé con ella, no pasó 2 semanas, todavía no hablaba con los papás del niño. Entonces yo quiero saber cuánto mi hija tiene que seguir aguantando o a cuántos niños más tienen que seguir molestando para que ella haga algo. Le pregunté hace 2 semanas qué pasó con el caso de mi hija. Me dijeron, sinceramente no lo seguimos. Entonces, creo que es una respuesta muy tonta, pero lo hizo. Quiero saber qué tenemos que hacer. ¿Tenemos que esperar más casos o qué debemos hacer?
My name is Patricia. I'm a student at Libby Elementary School. I think that the school should be a safe place for our children, and it's not. There's been more than 15 cases lately of bullying in the school where I don't think that it's been acknowledged, but nothing has been done for lack of seriousness on the topic. In several cases, the principal was spoken to and there was no solution. And even in the case of my daughter, where the case was not continued to be studied. My daughter has been bullying, and I asked her about the situation, and 2 weeks later she said that she still hadn't spoken to the parents of the other student, which I thought was honestly a stupid or a bad response, that we hadn't continued to follow up on the case. I want to know how many more students how much longer would my daughter have to suffer? How many more students would this have to happen to? And what are we going to do?
Thank you.
Next three speakers will be Gabriela Hernandez, Richard Newton, and Susan Custer. The next three will be Gabriela Hernandez, Richard Newton, and Susan Custer.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Gabriela y soy madre del estudiante Emiliano de Libby Elementary. Mi hijo el día 9 de octubre fue atacado por otro niño con una navaja facial de rasurar. Eso fue a las 8 de la mañana. La principal me habló hasta la 1 de la tarde diciéndome que ya tenía el asunto resuelto y que no pasaba nada, que mi hijo estaba bien. Al verme tan preocupada, asistí a la escuela con mi esposo. No nos quería dar información, ni siquiera nos dijo qué tipo de navaja era, qué había pasado. Entonces yo pedí hablar con mi hijo me explicó todo, un niño lo atacó, lo llamó, sacó del bolsillo la navaja y le tiró con la navaja. Mi hijo se espantó, se hizo para atrás y detuvo la navaja, si no se la hubieran enterrado en el cuerpo. La principal está muy renuente, dice que todo era confidencial y que no nos tenía que dar información. Pido un reporte médico con la enfermera, nos entrega una carta donde dice que se le lavó con jabón y que mi hijo estaba bien. Ni siquiera había puesto con qué objeto se le había cortado ni cómo habían pasado las cosas. No le puso desinfectante. Nosotros estábamos muy preocupados si mi hijo podría agarrar una infección con esa navaja. No nos quiso dar información y entonces nosotros acudimos a un hospital para que le revisaran. La escuela Libby Elementary no es una escuela segura, estamos muy preocupados, no me han dado respuesta. El niño que hizo eso es violento, sigue estando en el salón de mi hijo, ha tenido, después de que atacó a mi hijo, le llamó a otro y también intentó cortarlo, pero no le hizo nada. Mi hijo sí recibió una cortadura en el dedo. Estoy muy preocupada, pedimos intervención porque la escuela Libby Elementary está saliendo de control. No hay seguridad, meten objetos peligrosos, hay un bullying tremendo, no hay actividades para que los niños se desarrollen sanamente y los niños están cometiendo travesuras muy graves. Pedimos la intervención porque la principal lo único se esconde y no quiere dar respuesta y no quiere que salga la información de la escuela, quiere ocultar las cosas. Gracias.
Good evening, my name is Gabriela, my son is Emiliano. On October 9th, he was attacked by another student with a blade from a razor. We talked to the principal about it and she said that the situation had been resolved. The other student went towards my son and he lifted up his hand and got cut on his finger. I was very concerned, so I went to the school with my husband to talk about it, but she didn't want to give any details. So if my son hadn't stepped back, he could have been cut in his body. The principal did not want to give information. She said that it was confidential. I asked for a medical report from the nurse, and all it said was that the area had been cleaned with soap. It didn't even say what object had been used to cut him or what had happened, and they didn't put disinfectant on the wound, and they didn't want to give more information. We were concerned about having an infection from this blade, so we took him to the doctor. Libby has become a school that is unsafe. This violent student is still in my son's classroom. He tried to cut another student. On my son, it was his finger that got cut. We ask for an intervention. It's not safe. There's dangerous objects being allowed into the school. There's not activities to keep the kids healthily and occupied in a healthy way. The students are doing mischievous things that are very serious, so we ask for an intervention. When we try to speak to the principal, she hides or tries to hide this information.
When I was 5 years old, I was almost drowned in a river in Yosemite. A man I did not know pulled me from the river as I struggled to climb out of it on slippery rocks that I was unable to climb. I hope to do the same tonight, saving children I do not know. At last month's meeting, a woman stated how happy and proud she was that her child was the second in her family to transition. She also stated that there are 1.6 million trans people in America. I would add that that amounts to only 0.4% of the U.S. population. Moving on, I am holding a book first written by Charles Mackay in 1841 titled Extraordinary Popular Delusions and Madness of Crowds. I paraphrase from the opening that popular delusions spread so widely and lasted so long that 50 volumes on this great novel, Human Folly, would not be enough, and that yet which remains to be written. Some of his topics included the Mississippi Scheme, the South Sea Bubble, tulip mania, prophecies and fortune-telling, magnetizers and curing disease, witch hunts, slow poisoners, haunted houses, ordeals, and relics. What will they say in the future about a society that allowed young children to be permanently mutilated and left sterile simply to follow 0.4% of the population in a social fad? Let's add it to the list and let's call it transmania. What will any of you say when your children or grandchildren are old enough to come to you and ask, Mom or Dad, why didn't you let them cut off my penis or remove my breasts and leave me sterile? Your first job as a parent was to protect me from the dangers of this world, yet you betrayed me and sacrificed me on the altar of wokeism just so you could look cool for your friends. You failed me. Why didn't you protect me? And if you're lucky, they will simply conclude by saying that they will never forgive you. I also have here the November 21st Epic Times. From the front page, and I read the headline that parents' disorders are driving the surge in trans kids, according to psychiatrists. Transhausen by proxy describes narcissistic parents who may push transgenderism because they enjoy the attention of having a trans kid. And this may be contributing to the sudden rise of transgender children, according to some experts. The German people have been criticized and maligned for not risking their lives to free prisoners in concentration camps. What will the future think of you for remaining silent while young children are being mutilated and, in fact, supporting such actions simply so you can look woke, politically relevant, and employed, risking nothing more than a reasonable paycheck? Shame on all of you. I don't know how any of you can look yourself in the mirror. Cancer and lupus are diseases where the body attacks itself. Schizophrenia is a disease where the mind attacks itself. Gender dysphoria is a disease where the mind and body attack each other. Those suffering from this deserve our sympathy and compassion, but it is delusional and abusive to celebrate this happening to a young child, pushing them onto a path that contains so much pain and struggle. Do the right thing, push back on transmania, and resist the sacramental lunacy. Thank you. No, she's with me. I asked her to do it.
Good evening. Tonight I'm just going to read a few excerpts from articles that come from a Substack called... Anyway, from the first article by a father, an immense suffering accompanies my life every day, knowing that in a moment of psychological fragility, my daughter made a decision that will lead to irreparable damage to her healthy body, a decision that one day I am sure she will regret, a decision towards which she has been accompanied by people who know only the facade that she has built for herself, without investigating deeply what the facade hides. And from another father, I cry everywhere I can be alone, or where no one can see me. and in places where I never cried before. When I weed our vegetable garden in the warm sun, I think of how much Ricky might love a slice of that juicy watermelon we are growing, and I weep. As I keep my hands busy building things around the house, I pause between power drill spins to sigh. When I go out for a jog, I occasionally choke up between breaths. On breaks while working, I stand, stretch, and sniffle. On long trips, while my wife dozes off, I tear up. Even on the beach where the two of us empty nesters go to relax, I cry. The beach is a place to swim, body surf, play silly beach games. Now I drop tears whenever my face is out of sight. I hope when you are encouraging and congratulating children on their decision to trans that you will start to think about the families and parents whose lives are destroyed. In the future, when many of these trans individuals are suffering from the side effects of cross-sex hormones or mutilated bodies, will you be there to support them, or will that fall to their heartbroken families? And from a third father. It's been about a year and a half since our daughter told us she was transgender, and it has not been an easy time. Watching your child go through something like this is incredibly hard. This is not something that happens one day and blows over. It's a struggle over an extensive period of time, and it can really wear you and your family down. In the transgender debate currently sweeping across America, everyone is focused on the trans kids and what treatments they should be allowed to have or not to have. No one can truly grasp the burden this places on a family. The cloud of darkness that you feel over your lives, knowing that your child hates herself so much she will mutilate her body.
Our next speaker, last speaker, Maria Asha.
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Vitale, board, staff, thank you for having us up here tonight. My name is Maria Alsham. I'm the district social worker and LGBTQ youth liaison. And we just wanted to talk a little bit tonight about what our social work team has been doing so far this fall. We have one district social worker, so that's one staff member, and we have 5 MSW interns who will all provide between 500 and 650 hours of direct service this school year.
Hi everyone, my name is McKenna. I'm a social work intern from Cal State San Marcos in my Master of Social Work program. Since the beginning of the school year until now, we have had a total of 126 referrals. The largest reason for referrals being social emotional, then attendance, and others that are shown on the graph you have. As far as interventions provided since the beginning of the school year, the other social work interns and I have done 315 total interventions with students. The bulk of interventions include individual counseling, followed by caregiver contact and others. We as interns are participating in macro projects, which include a weekend Food for Kids backpack program at Fusa Elementary School, pregnant and parenting teen support group for district students, and Return Roma attendance events for chronically absent students. I really enjoyed this school year so far. As a school social work intern, I find the collaboration between myself, the counselors, school administration, and teachers to be very beneficial for the students.
So just to be clear, just like school counselors, any students can come if we're on campus and they can find us and work with us. But if there's any ongoing work to be done, we always ask for parent permission before any kind of ongoing work continues. We do have our PPS credentials once we're credentialed in school social work, child welfare, and attendance. So attendance is something we spend a lot of time on. It's something I personally spent a lot of time on this year. You can see how important that is, and I'm really happy that we are spending so much time doing that because it's really important to get our kids back to school. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
to closed session at 8:09. For those that wish to stay, we will be coming back to report out. Thank you all. Sorry. Thank you all for being here, and you all have a happy new year and happy holiday. Thank you.